The universe, as you understand it, is a massive, clockwork machine of cause and effect. You drop a glass, it shatters. You light a match, it burns. You live your life moving from a known past into an uncertain future, carried by the relentless, one-way flow of time. Physicists call this the arrow of time, a concept dictated by the second law of thermodynamics, which states that entropy, disorder, must always increase. In our macroscopic world, the arrow is straight, sharp, and absolute. But as we peel back the skin of reality and peer into the quantum basement, we find something horrifying. The arrow isn't just bent, it is shattered. At the most fundamental level of existence, the laws of physics don't care about before or after. And recently, experiments have proven that the future isn't just waiting to happen, it is actively reaching back to rewrite the past. The comforting lie of linear time for centuries. We clung to the Newtonian ideal. The universe is a series of billiard balls hitting one another. If you knew the position and velocity of every atom, you could map the entire history of the cosmos backward and forward. This gave us a sense of security. It meant that the past is set in stone, and the future is a consequence. This linear progression is the only thing allowing your brain to process reality. Your memory depends on the past being fixed. Your survival depends on the future being a result of your current actions. But this common sense is a biological filter, a survival mechanism evolved to keep us from seeing the chaotic truth. The truth is that the subatomic world, the foundation upon which your entire body and the stars themselves are built, functions on time symmetry. In the equations of quantum mechanics, time is just a parameter, like length or width. There is no mathematical reason why a sequence of events can't run backward. Yet, for decades, scientists dismissed this as a mathematical quirk, an imaginary solution to real-world problems. They were wrong. The experiment that broke reality. To understand how the future can reach back and change the past, we have to look at the most disturbing experiment in the history of science, Wheeler's delayed choice. Imagine a single photon traveling through a laboratory. It encounters a fork in the road, a beam splitter. According to the strange rules of quantum mechanics, the photon doesn't just pick one path. It travels both simultaneously as a wave of probability. However, if you place a detector at the fork to watch which way it goes, the photon decides to act like a particle and takes only one path. The act of observing it changes its behavior. But John Wheeler, a legendary physicist and colleague of Einstein, took this a step further. He asked, what if we wait until the photon has already passed through the fork before we decide whether or not to observe it? In 2007, and again in more sophisticated tests in 2017, scientists finally performed this. They allowed the photon to pass the choice point as a wave. It had already traveled millions of miles in cosmic versions of the experiment, or several meters in a lab. Only after it had passed the point of no return did the scientists use a high-speed random number generator to decide whether to measure it or let it be. The results were chilling. If the scientists decided to measure the photon in the future, the photon retroactively changed its behavior in the past to accommodate the measurement. It was as if the photon knew what the scientists were going to do before they even did it. The effect, the measurement, happened after the cause, the path taken. The arrow was broken. The future had dictated the past. The quantum eraser, deleting history. If the delayed choice experiment wasn't enough to make you question your existence, the delayed choice quantum eraser takes it to a darker place. In this setup, researchers don't just observe a particle, they erase the coded information of that observation. When the information of which path a particle took is known, the particle behaves like a solid object. When that information is erased, even if that erasure happens after the particle has already hit a detector, the particle suddenly shows a wave pattern. Think about the implications for a moment. This implies that the history of a particle, where it was, what it did, and how it moved, is not fixed until a final observation is made in the future. If you delete the knowledge of the past in the future, the past itself changes to reflect that ignorance. This suggests that the universe doesn't keep a permanent record. Reality is a work in progress, and the final edit hasn't happened yet. Everything you think has already happened is actually in a state of flux, waiting for a future event to lock it in. The terror of the macro leak. But that's just the quantum world, the skeptics say. It doesn't affect us in the real world. This is the most dangerous assumption of all. We are made of quantum particles. Every neuron firing in your brain, every chemical reaction in your heart, and every star collapsing in a distant galaxy is a quantum event. There is no magical border where the weird physics stops and the normal physics begins. This is called the measurement problem, and it is the dirty little secret of modern science. If subatomic particles can be influenced by future measurements, then the entire structure of the universe, the large-scale reality, is built on a foundation of shifting sand. We are starting to see leaks. Scientists studying the cosmic microwave background, the afterglow of the Big Bang, have found strange anomalies and cold spots that shouldn't exist according to standard models. Some theorists, including those looking at retrocausal gravity, suggest these aren't just random errors. They are the bruises left by the future. Large-scale cosmic structures might be responding to the end of the universe, sending a ripple backward through time that we are only now starting to detect. Why scientists are horrified. The reason this discovery is kept in the halls of academia and discussed in hushed tones is because of what it does to the concept of free will. If the future is already affecting the past, it implies that the future is, in some sense, already established. It acts as a destination that the present is being pulled toward. In a world of broken causality, you aren't a traveler choosing your path on a map. You are a train on a track, and the track has already been laid all the way to the graveyard. The arrow of time was our shield. It gave us the illusion that we were the ones pushing the world forward. If the arrow is broken, then we are just characters in a movie that has already been filmed. We are just now reaching the scene where we realize we aren't the directors. The handshake across time. As we close this chapter, we have to face the ultimate possibility, the transactional interpretation. This theory suggests that every event in the universe is a handshake between two waves. One wave moves forward from the past, an offer wave, and one wave moves backward from the future, and confirmation wave. Only when these two waves meet, when the past and the future agree on what should happen, does an event become real. This means that nothing is happening for the first time. Every breath you take, every tragedy you endure, and every discovery humanity makes is a pre-negotiated agreement between the beginning of time and the end of time. The glass didn't shatter because you dropped it. You dropped it because in the future the glass was already shattered, and the universe had to fulfill the requirement of that reality. In the next chapter, we will look at the echo from tomorrow, the evidence that these future signals aren't just affecting photons in a lab, but are actively manifesting as glitches in our daily lives. And why some people claim to have felt the shudder of an event before it even began. The arrow is broken, and we are falling through the cracks. If Chapter 1 broke the arrow of time, Chapter 2 is where we begin to hear the vibrations of the impact. We often think of the future as a void, a dark, unwritten expanse waiting for our footsteps. But what if the future isn't empty? What if the future is a massive, high-pressure front, and we are living in the weather system created by its approach? In physics, there is a concept that haunts the equations of electromagnetism and quantum mechanics, one that most textbooks gloss over because it is too deeply unsettling to acknowledge in a standard lab setting. These are advanced waves, while retarded waves carry information forward from the past, the light from a star reaching your eye. Advanced waves are mathematically valid solutions that travel backward from the future to the present. For decades, scientists treated these backward-moving waves as mathematical artifacts, trash to be thrown out. But new theories suggest these echoes aren't glitches. They are the primary mechanism of reality. You aren't being pushed by your past, you are being pulled by your future, the handshake across the eons. To understand the echo, we must look at the transactional interpretation of quantum mechanics, TIQM, proposed by physicist John Cramer. It offers a solution to the spooky behavior of atoms that is far more terrifying than simple randomness. Cramer suggested that every event in the universe is a handshake across time. Imagine a star 10 billion light-years away emitting a photon. In the standard view, that photon wanders blindly through the void until it hits your telescope. But in the transactional view, the star sends out an offer wave into the future. Your telescope, 10 billion years later, sends back a confirmation wave into the past. When these two waves, one from the past, one from the future, meet and interact, the transaction is complete. The photon appears, the event becomes real. Think about the implications. The star could not have emitted that light unless your telescope was there to receive it billions of years later. The future receiver is just as responsible for the event as the past source. This means the cosmos is a web of predetermined handshakes. Every heartbeat, every supernova, and every thought you have is a prearranged agreement between what was and what will be. The echo is the signal from the future reaching back to shake hands with your present, the pre-sensing of catastrophe. If this handshake is real, we should be able to detect the vibrations of the future before the event occurs. This isn't science fiction. It is a phenomenon known as pre-causality. In high-energy physics, researchers have noted strange pre-acceleration in certain charged particles. Under specific conditions, a particle appears to start moving just before a force is applied to it. It's as if the particle feels the coming shove and reacts in anticipation. On a larger scale, this leads to a chilling hypothesis, the cosmic shudder. If a massive, reality-altering event is scheduled to happen in the future, perhaps the collision of two black holes or the eventual big rip of the universe, the advanced waves from that catastrophe should be washing over us right now. Some theorists suggest that the dark energy accelerating the expansion of our universe isn't a force from the Big Bang. Instead, it's an echo from the end of the universe. We are being pulled toward a final gravitational abyss, and the vacuum of space is reacting to that future trauma today. We are living in the shadow of a mountain we haven't even reached yet. The biological echo, do we feel tomorrow? If the universe functions on these handshakes, does life, the most complex arrangement of matter in the known cosmos, utilize them? In 2011, social psychologist Daryl Bem published a controversial study in the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology titled Feeling the Future. Through a series of rigorous tests, he appeared to show that human subjects' nervous systems reacted to stimuli before the stimuli were randomly selected by a computer. In one experiment, participants' heart rates and brain activity spiked seconds before they were shown a disturbing image, but remained calm before being shown a neutral one. The computer hadn't even chosen which image to show yet. The echo of the future emotion was leaking into the present biology of the subjects. While the scientific community scrambled to debunk the study, fearing the death of linear causality, the transactional physicists weren't surprised. If a neuron is a quantum-sensitive structure, it may be capable of receiving a confirmation wave from its own future state. Your gut feeling might not be a calculation based on the past. It might be a literal vibration from a version of you that has already experienced the next 5 minutes. The ghost in the machine. This brings us to the most disturbing aspect of the echo, the scripted reality. If the future can send signals back to the past, it means the future is already crystallized. You cannot have an echo from something that doesn't exist. In a universe of handshakes, the ending of the movie is already on the film reel. We are just the light passing through the frames. This creates a paradox of temporal feedback. Imagine you hear an echo from tomorrow that warns you of a car accident. You decide to stay home. But if you stay home, the accident never happens. If the accident never happens, there is no echo to warn you. The universe solves this through self-consistency. Physicist Igor Novikov proposed that the laws of physics will actually conspire to prevent a paradox. If you try to change the past or the future, the echo will be such that your actions actually cause the event you are trying to avoid. We are trapped in a feedback loop. Every attempt to exercise free will might just be the very mechanism the future uses to ensure it happens exactly as intended. The echo isn't a warning, it's a command. The silence of the future. Why don't we hear the echo more clearly? Why isn't life a constant stream of spoilers? Physicists suggest that the noise of the present drowns out the signal from the future. We are blinded by the arrow of entropy. But in the quietest places, in the deep cold of space, in the heart of a particle accelerator, or perhaps in the subconscious depths of a dreaming brain, the background noise of the now fades. There we find the advanced signals. We find evidence that the James Webb Telescope isn't just seeing the past. It is seeing the inevitable framework of a future that has already dictated how those ancient stars must burn. The echo from tomorrow tells us that we are not the protagonists of an unfolding story. We are the echoes of a conclusion that was reached long before we were born. We are the ripples in a pond moving backward from the spot where a stone is about to hit the water. The final signal. As we move into Chapter 3, we must ask, if the future is already reaching back to us, what is it trying to say? When we look at the most powerful echoes detected by our instruments, the strange, unexplained alignments in the cosmic microwave background, known as the axis of evil, they don't point to a random past. They point to a specific, structured future. The universe isn't drifting, it is being steered. And the voice we are hearing in the quantum noise isn't a ghost. It's the sound of the universe's final moment, echoing backward through time, vibrating in the atoms of your very body. You feel it as a sense of urgency, a sense that time is speeding up. It isn't. You are simply getting closer to the source of the echo, and the closer you get, the louder the scream becomes. In the next chapter, we look at the pre-echo of catastrophe. We will explore why the universe appears to shudder before a major event, and the terrifying evidence that a cosmic-scale disaster is already sending its shockwaves into our present day. If the universe is a symphony, we have always believed we were hearing it in the order the composer intended, note by note, second by second. But the echo from tomorrow suggests something far more jarring. It suggests that the loudest, most violent chords of the finale are so powerful that they are bleeding through the sheet music, vibrating the instruments before the conductor even raises his baton. In physics, we call this pre-causality. In the world of cosmic horror, we call it the pre-echo. This is the chapter where the theory of retrocausality stops being a laboratory curiosity and starts becoming a survival threat. If the future can affect the past, then a sufficiently massive catastrophe in our future wouldn't just destroy us when it arrives. It would begin destroying us now. It would send shockwaves backward through the timeline, bruising the present with the gravity of what is to come. The vacuum shudder. When the future collapses. The most terrifying concept in modern physics is vacuum decay. To put it simply, our universe might be in a false vacuum, a state of being that is stable, but not the most stable. Think of it like a ball sitting on a ledge halfway down a mountain. If that ball is nudged, it will fall to the bottom, releasing a catastrophic amount of energy that would rewrite the laws of physics and incinerate the cosmos at the speed of light. Standard linear physics tells us we would never see it coming. It moves at light speed. By the time the bubble of the new vacuum reaches us, we are already gone. But in a universe of advanced waves, this isn't true. A catastrophe of that magnitude, the literal unmaking of reality, would create a temporal wake. Because the future is linked to the past via the quantum handshake, the total annihilation of the future state would cause the confirmation waves of the present to suddenly flatline. Scientists have begun looking for the cosmic shudder. This is a theoretical pre-signal where the vacuum of space begins to fluctuate wildly, not because of something that happened at the Big Bang, but because of a collapse that is scheduled to happen 1 billion years from now. If the future of the universe is a dead end, the present should feel the draft coming from that open door. The Cherenkov effect of time. To understand how a disaster can be felt before it happens, we can look at a real-world analog, Cherenkov radiation. When a particle travels through a medium faster than the speed of light in that medium, it creates a ghostly blue glow, a sonic boom of light. It is a reaction to a threshold being crossed. Now, apply this to time. If an event in the future is energetic enough, a supernova, a black hole merger, or an artificial intelligence reaching a technological singularity, it creates a temporal Cherenkov effect. The information of that event travels backward through the quantum foam, creating anomalies in our current timeline that shouldn't exist. Consider the Great Attractor. Deep in intergalactic space, there is a gravitational anomaly so massive that it is pulling our entire galaxy and thousands of others toward it at millions of miles per hour. We cannot see what it is. It is shrouded by the zone of avoidance. But some radical theorists suggest the Great Attractor isn't a physical object in space. It's a physical object in time. It is a pre-echo of a future gravitational singularity so immense that its advanced waves are tugging on the matter of the past. We aren't being pulled toward a place. We are being pulled toward a moment. A catastrophe so large it has warped the history of the universe for billions of years before its actual occurrence. The silent scientists and the 1% signal. Why are scientists silent about this, as the acronym portal often claims? Because the data is messy, and the implications are professional suicide. In particle accelerators like CERN, researchers often deal with background noise. Usually this noise is filtered out as random quantum fluctuations. However, there is a persistent, tiny fraction of data, often called the 1% signal, that defies explanation. These are events where subatomic particles appear to know they are about to collide before they actually hit. If a scientist admits that these particles are reacting to a future event, they admit that causality is a lie. If causality is a lie, then the scientific method, which relies on observation leading to conclusion, evaporates. The silence isn't a conspiracy of men in suits. It's a conspiracy of the human mind trying to protect its sanity. To acknowledge the pre-echo is to acknowledge that we are living in the wake of a future disaster we cannot prevent. The Mandela effect, or temporal bruising. On a more human, unsettling level, the pre-echo might explain the glitches in reality that have become a staple of internet lore. We often joke about the Mandela effect. Large groups of people remembering a past that never happened. In the context of the end of causality, these aren't false memories. They are temporal bruises. When a major handshake from the future is altered or reaches a catastrophic conclusion, it sends a ripple back that can slightly shift the probability of past events. If a future event rewrites a portion of the timeline to ensure its own consistency, the past changes. Most of us change with it, our memories being updated like a software patch. But some data remains, the echo of the original timeline, the feeling that something is wrong with the world, a collective sense of dread that has permeated the 21st century, might be the ultimate pre-echo. It is a biological response to a future that is becoming increasingly unstable. We are like animals that flee to high ground hours before a tsunami hits. We don't see the wave yet, but the advanced waves are already vibrating in our bones. The final warning, the Fermi paradox revisited this, brings us to a terrifying solution to why the universe is so silent. Why haven't we found other civilizations? Perhaps every civilization reaches a point where they begin to experiment with high-energy physics that taps into the quantum handshake. and perhaps every time they discover that the future is already full. The great filter isn't a wall in the past. It's a pre-echo from the future. If the universe has a finite processing power, it can only support a certain amount of organized complexity. As a civilization approaches the point where it would become a galactic power, it creates a temporal paradox that the universe fixes by deleting the cause, the civilization itself. The silence we hear in the stars is the pre-echo of our own extinction. We are hearing the confirmation wave of a universe that has already decided we do not exist in the final chapter. Conclusion: the shadow is moving. We are currently standing in the shade. We assume it is just a cloud passing over the sun. But as we look closer at the math of the subatomic world, and as we look deeper into the anomalies of the deep cosmos, we realize the shadow has a shape. It is a shape that doesn't belong to anything in our past. It is the silhouette of a catastrophe that hasn't happened yet, but is so massive, so final, that it casts a shadow billions of years long. We are living in the pre-echo. The impossible things happening to Earth right now, the shifts in our magnetic field, the strange behavior of the sun, the glitches in our physics, are the first tremors of the earthquake to come. In Chapter 4, The Scripted Universe, we will go deeper. If the future is already reaching back to change us, does that mean every choice you've ever made was written by a version of you that hasn't been born yet? We will explore the BlockUniverse and the horrifying reality that you are already dead. And that's actually the good news. If you were to look at a strip of film, you would see the beginning, the middle, and the end all existing simultaneously in your hands. To the characters inside the film, time is a terrifying, unfolding mystery. They scream as the killer rounds the corner. They weep at the funeral in the final act. They believe their choices matter. But you, holding the reel, know better. You can see the funeral while the wedding is still being filmed. You know that the hero's choice to turn left was etched into the celluloid months before the scene began. In physics, this isn't just a metaphor for cinematography. It is the most mathematically sound model of our reality, the BlockUniverse. In this chapter, we move from the echoes of the future to the realization that the future isn't just sending signals back. The future is already here, fully formed and utterly unchangeable. We are living in a scripted universe where the end of causality isn't a glitch in the system, but the very nature of the system itself, the death of now. The foundation of our sanity is the belief in now. We believe the past is a ghost, the future is a void, and only this singular moving moment of the present is real. But Albert Einstein's theory of relativity slaughtered this concept over a century ago. According to relativity, time is not a universal river. It is a dimension, exactly like height, width, and depth. This creates a four-dimensional structure called space-time. Because time is relative to speed and gravity, two observers can disagree on which of the two events happened first. To an alien traveling at near light speed in a distant galaxy, your tomorrow might be occurring at the same time as your yesterday. For both observers to be right, both moments, the past and the future, must be equally real. They must exist as fixed points in the four-dimensional block. If the future already exists for one observer, it must be written for everyone. This leads to a chilling conclusion. Your birth your first heartbreak, and the moment you draw your final breath are all permanently etched into the fabric of the cosmos. They are not happening. They simply are. The illusion of the flow. If everything is already written, why do we feel like we are moving through time? Why do we feel the flow? Physicists like Max Tegmark and Julian Barber suggest that the flow of time is a massive biological hallucination. Your brain is a meat computer designed to process information linearly to ensure survival. It stitches together now moments, like frames in a movie, to create the illusion of motion. But in the BlockUniverse, there is no flow. There is only a static, unchanging sculpture of events. Imagine a frozen lake. You are a skater whose path is already carved into the ice. You feel like you are choosing where to turn, but you are merely following the groove that was there before you even stepped onto the rink. This is where the end of causality becomes personal. We think cause A leads to effect B, but in a scripted universe, B exists just as much as A. The future doesn't follow the past. They are simply neighbors in a four-dimensional landscape. The reason the future can affect the past is because they are connected by the same solid matter of the block. The quantum script. Why it feels random. The biggest argument against the scripted universe has always been quantum mechanics. We were told that atoms are probabilistic, that they can be here or there until we look at them. This suggested that the future was open, a rolling set of dice. But modern interpretations such as superdeterminism have closed that loophole. Superdeterminism suggests that there are no truly random events. Instead, the universe is so tightly interconnected that the random choice of a scientist to measure a particle was actually determined at the moment of the Big Bang. If the scientist was always going to pick measurement A, then the particle was always going to show result A. The randomness is an illusion caused by our lack of data. In reality, the script is so detailed that it accounts for every subatomic wobble. The universe isn't playing dice. It's playing a recording, the horror of the pre-written life. Take a moment to process the weight of this. If the universe is scripted, then free will is the most elaborate lie ever told. Every choice you have ever agonized over, which career to take, who to marry, whether to turn the steering wheel a fraction of an inch to the left, was settled billions of years ago. The struggle you feel when making a decision is just the sound of the script being read. You are a passenger in your own body watching a first-person movie and believing you are the actor. This is the disturbing theory scientists are silent about. It isn't just that the universe is scary. It's that you aren't actually doing anything. You are a witness to a pre-recorded life. In the acronium view of the cosmos, this is the ultimate existential dread. We aren't explorers of the stars. We are puppets of the laws of physics, performing a play for an audience of none. The future affects the past because the story requires it to make sense. The plot is already bound and printed. The glitch in the script, synchronicity. If we are in a scripted reality, we should expect to see literary patterns rather than random ones. This is where the physics of the BlockUniverse meets the strange reality of human experience. Have you ever experienced a coincidence so improbable it felt authored? You think of a long-lost friend, and they call you seconds later. You see a specific number everywhere you go. In a random universe, these are just statistical anomalies. But in a scripted universe, these are synchronicities, moments where the internal logic of the script becomes visible. Just as a screenwriter uses motifs and foreshadowing to tie a story together, the block universe may be structured with temporal echoes. The future foreshadows itself in the past. Your sudden urge to avoid a certain road, or a dream that later comes true, isn't a psychic power. It is simply you, the character, catching a glimpse of the script's later pages. The future is already there, and sometimes the ink bleeds through. You are already immortal, and that's the problem. There is a dark silver lining to the scripted universe. If the block universe is real, then death is also an illusion. In a linear universe, when you die, you are gone. But in a block universe, your life is a permanent 4D structure in space-time. To the universe, you are still being born. You're still eating your favorite meal, and you're still watching this video. You don't end. You simply have a final coordinate. You are immortal in the sense that your slice of the block can never be erased. But here is the horror. If your life is a script, you are trapped in it forever. If time doesn't flow, then every moment of suffering, every second of fear, and every impossible tragedy is a permanent fixture of reality. You aren't moving past your trauma. You are forever existing within it, alongside your moments of joy. We are statues in a gallery of time, frozen in our poses for eternity. The final edit, as we close this chapter, we have to face the ultimate question. Who wrote the script? Is the universe a mathematical inevitability, a self-solving equation that could only ever exist in one way? Or is the end of causality evidence of a higher-order editor? Some physicists looking at the precision of the universe's constants suggest the block universe looks less like a natural phenomenon and more like a simulation where the future is already computed and the past is generated to support it. We are living in the center of a cosmic hole, and nobody told us that the hole is the shape of a story that has already been told. In Chapter 5, The Glitch in the Matrix, we will look at what happens when the script breaks. We will examine the data from CERN and deep space telescopes that suggest the block is cracking, and that something from outside our reality is trying to rewrite the ending. In the previous chapters, we established a reality that is rigid, scripted, and governed by a future that has already happened. We have looked at the block universe as a seamless, four-dimensional sculpture where every moment is a permanent fixture. But even the most perfect diamond has flaws. Even the most sophisticated software has bugs. If our reality is a scripted or simulated construct where the future reaches back to stabilize the past, what happens when the two ends don't meet? What happens when the handshake fails? Or when the data from the future contradicts the physical state of the present? In the halls of the Large Hadron Collider at CERN and in the silent arrays of deep space telescopes, scientists are beginning to find things that shouldn't exist. They are finding glitches. These aren't just errors in human measurement. They are cracks in the very foundation of causality. Proof that the matrix of our universe is stuttering. The CERN anomalies. When physics breaks. For decades, the standard model of physics has been our rule book for reality. It tells us how particles must behave, how forces must interact, and how time must unfold. But in recent years, experiments at CERN have produced results that have left physicists horrified, as the acronym portal often puts it. Specifically, the study of B mesons, tiny, unstable particles, has revealed a persistent glitch. According to the script of our universe, these particles should decay in a very specific, symmetrical way. Instead, they are showing a flavor anomaly. They are choosing decay paths that violate the known laws of physics. To a casual observer, this sounds like a technicality. To a physicist, it is the equivalent of seeing a glass fall upward. It suggests that the standard model is a local approximation, and that something deeper is overriding the system. Some theorists suggest these anomalies are temporal buffering. We are seeing the system struggle to reconcile a future state with a present action. It is a glitch in the code where the future hasn't quite finished rewriting the past to accommodate a new event. The cold spot and the erasure of space. If the glitch is in the code, then we should see dead pixels in the sky. And we do. When scientists map the cosmic microwave background, CMB, the oldest light in the universe, they found the CMB cold spot. It is a vast, empty region of space, billions of light years across, that is significantly colder than its surroundings. It shouldn't be there. Standard cosmology says the early universe was uniform. One of the most disturbing explanations for this cold spot is that it is a collision trace. It is a point where another reality, another BlockUniverse, has bumped into ours. In a scripted universe, this is a fatal error. It means our script is being interfered with by an external editor. Imagine a video file that has been corrupted by a neighboring file on a hard drive. The cold spot is a region where our future confirmation waves are being diverted into a different timeline entirely. It is a hole in our matrix, a place where the script has been erased, leaving nothing but a void that terrifies those who study it. The Mandela effect, collective corruption. While scientists look at the stars, the public has noticed glitches in their own backyard. We return to the Mandela effect, but with a darker, more technical lens. In a scripted universe, history is supposed to be a constant. But if the editor of the simulation decides to change the ending, they must retroactively change the beginning to ensure the plot makes sense. This is called dynamic history. If you change the future, the advanced waves move backward and alter the past. Most of the human data, our brains, updates automatically because we are part of the system. But occasionally, the update doesn't take for everyone. A small percentage of the population retains the cached version of the previous script. They remember the wrong name of a brand, the death of a celebrity that never happened, or a different geography. These aren't false memories. They are residual data. They are the fragments of a deleted reality that the system failed to overwrite. We call them glitches, but they are actually evidence of a reality that is constantly being edited in real time. The matrix is being patched, and we are the witnesses to the sloppy coding. The observation glitch reality is rendering. The most famous glitch in physics is the measurement problem. We know that a quantum particle exists in a state of probability, a wave, until it is observed, at which point it collapses into a definite state, a particle. But why? Why does the universe care if a human, a cat, or a camera is looking at it? In the simulation hypothesis, this is simply optimized rendering. to save computing power. The universe doesn't render the details of a room unless someone is inside it. It doesn't decide the path of an electron unless that path needs to be known for the next part of the script. The glitch occurs when we try to trick the system. Experiments like the delayed choice quantum eraser, which we discussed in Chapter 1, are effectively stress tests for the matrix. When we measure a particle and then erase the information, we are forcing the universe to undo a calculation it has already performed. The result, the particle changing its past behavior, is the system's way of saying, I have corrected the error to maintain the illusion. The increasing frequency of anomalies. If you feel like the world is becoming more surreal, you aren't alone. From impossible weather patterns to UFO sightings that defy the laws of inertia, the number of recorded anomalies is skyrocketing. In a scripted universe, this suggests we are approaching the end of the file. When a computer program is nearing the end of its memory allocation, or when a script is trying to resolve too many plot holes at once, the number of glitches increases. The logic of the universe begins to fray. We see cosmic monsters, black holes that are too big for their galaxies, stars that are older than the universe, and particles that move through solid walls. Scientists are silent because they don't have a new theory to replace the old one. They are watching the rules of the game change while they are still playing it. The physics is broken headline isn't clickbait. It is a status report from the edge of the abyss. The final patch, the great erasure. The most terrifying thing about a glitch is what happens when the editor notices it. If the universe is a self-correcting script, any anomaly that threatens the stability of the final outcome must be deleted. This might explain the sudden disappearance of advanced civilizations, the Fermi paradox, or the sudden mass extinctions in Earth's history. These aren't accidents. They are reboots. When the pre-echo of Catastrophe from Chapter 3 becomes too loud, the system may simply wipe the current now moment and restart from a previous save point. This would mean that we have lived this script thousands of times before, and every time we reach the point of realizing we are in a matrix, the glitch is patched by our total annihilation. Conclusion. Outside the block, we are living in a reality that is stuttering. The end of causality has revealed that the future and the past are not just neighbors. They are pieces of data in a system that is prone to errors. The glitches are warnings. They are the only way we can see the bars of our cage. When you see something impossible, don't look away. That is the only moment you are seeing the true face of the universe, the raw code behind the scripted lie. In the final chapter, Chapter 6, The Final Silence, we will look at the ultimate conclusion of this journey. What happens when the script ends? If the future has already reached back and dictated our fate, what is the final word of the story? And why is the universe becoming so quiet as we approach it? We have reached the end of the reel. We have watched the arrow of time shatter, heard the echoes of tomorrow, felt the tremors of future catastrophes, and accepted the cold comfort of a scripted existence. We have peered through the glitches in the matrix to see the raw code of reality. Now, we must face the most unsettling question of all. If the future is already written and the past is merely its shadow, what happens when the story concludes? In the study of the cosmos, There is a phenomenon that haunts astronomers, a quietness that is spreading through the deep reaches of space. It isn't just the absence of sound, it is the absence of possibility. This is the final silence. It is the moment when the handshake between the past and the future finally stops, because the future has run out of things to say. In this final chapter, we explore the terrifying realization that we are living in the wake of a dead universe, and that the silence we hear in the stars is the sound of the script reaching its final, empty page. The heat death and the last handshake. To understand the silence, we must look at the ultimate fate of the universe. Current physics points toward the Big Freeze, or heat death. This is the state where the universe has expanded so far that galaxies are isolated, stars have burned out, and even black holes have evaporated through Hawking radiation. Entropy reaches its maximum. There is no more energy to perform work, no more light to carry information, and no more heat to sustain life. In a linear universe, this is a trillion-year tragedy. But in our scripted, retrocausal universe, the heat death is happening now. If every event requires a confirmation wave from the future to become real, what happens when the future is a void? If the end of the universe is a state of absolute zero and total darkness, it cannot send back a signal. It has no information to give. As the universe approaches this state of maximum entropy, the handshake becomes weaker. The offer waves from our present are being sent into a future that is increasingly incapable of answering. This is why the universe feels like it is slowing down or becoming hollow. We are reaching the point where the future is too empty to support the complexity of the present. The silence isn't coming. It is already echoing back to us. The Fermi paradox, the silence of the graveyard. The most profound manifestation of this silence is the Fermi paradox, the eerie fact that despite billions of potentially habitable planets, we have heard nothing from the stars, no radio signals, no megastructures, no cosmic neighbors. In the context of the end of causality, the explanation is chilling. There are no civilizations in the stars because the future has already determined that they don't belong in the final script. If a civilization were to become truly galactic, it would create an enormous amount of temporal data. It would send signals across the block, creating complex feedback loops that might destabilize the universe's ultimate destination of heat death. To prevent this, the universe's self-correcting mechanism, the script, simply doesn't allow these civilizations to manifest. The silence we hear when we point our telescopes at distant galaxies is the confirmation wave of a graveyard. We are looking at a future that has already been edited to be empty. We are the only characters left on the stage because we are too small, for now, to disrupt the final silence. The death of information, the black hole firewall. As we approach the end of the script, we see the universe deleting its files. This is most visible at the event horizons of black holes. For a long time, physicists were embroiled in the black hole information paradox. If you throw a book into a black hole, is the information in that book destroyed? In a retrocausal world, black holes are the incinerators of the script. They are points in space where the link between the past and the future is severed. Some theories suggest the existence of a firewall, a layer of high-energy particles at the event horizon that literally burns information out of existence. Why would the universe do this? Because as the script nears its end, the system must clean up redundant data. Black holes are the garbage collectors of the matrix. They are the spots where the silence begins to eat the story. Every black hole is a localized final silence, a preview of the void that will eventually consume the entire block. The psychological silence, the great exhaustion. It isn't just the stars that are going quiet. It is us. There is a documented phenomenon in modern psychology often called the great exhaustion or existential burnout. Collectively, humanity seems to be losing its drive to look toward the horizon. Our culture is obsessed with the past, reboots, nostalgia, and retro wave aesthetics. In a universe where the future is reaching back, this is a biological symptom of the final silence. We are losing our vision of the future because there is less and less future to see. We are like actors in a play who have reached the final scene and can see the stagehands waiting in the wings to turn off the lights. The creative energy of the species is dampening because the confirmation waves from our descendants are thinning out. If there is no one in the future to receive our legacy, then the offer waves of our current culture have nowhere to go. We are shouting into a vacuum, and we can feel the lack of an echo. The end is the beginning. But there is one final terrifying possibility. In some models of the BlockUniverse, time is not a line, but a circle, a closed time-like curve. If the universe ends in a big crunch or a singularity that triggers a new Big Bang, then the final silence is actually the initial noise. The end of the script is the exact same moment as the beginning. This means the final silence isn't the end of existence, but the moment the loop closes. The horror here is the eternal recurrence. You are born, you live, you die, and you experience the final silence, only to find that the silence is the roar of the Big Bang starting your life all over again. You are trapped in a script that never changes, a movie that plays on a loop for all eternity, with no editor to save you and no exit to take. The silence is the sound of the needle resetting on the record. The final word, as we conclude this series, look around you. The objects in your room, the people you love, and the stars above you are all part of a handshake that is billions of years old. You are a character in a story that has already been told, witnessing a conclusion that has already been reached. The impossible things we see, the glitches, the echoes, the broken physics, are just the universe's way of reminding us that the story is almost over. The scientists who are silent because there is nothing left to say. Residual data has been collected. The conclusion is inevitable. The final silence is not something to be feared. It is simply the moment the handshake is complete. It is the moment the universe finally rests, having fulfilled the requirements of a script written in the language of light and gravity. When you look into the night sky and see the vast, dark spaces between the stars, don't see them as empty. See them as the final silence. See them as the peace that comes when the story is finished. The future has already happened. The past is still changing. And you? You are exactly where the script says you should be.